Well, the question seems to be, what's the big deal about the Bible? And from my standpoint, that's like asking, what's the big deal about breathing? You, without breathing, you don't live. My answer, very simple, would be, who is talking? When we say the Word of God, God is creator, omnipotent. He is before all things. He's outside our realm. It seems to me that when he talks, we ought to listen. If Joe Blow down the street says something, it may or may not be worthwhile. But if someone important comes into your life and wants to talk to you, you'd better listen. Well, one example, a number of years ago, I was president of Whitworth College at that time in Spokane, and the Queen of England, and that's so important in Great Britain, the Queen came here and gave a number of lectures at various institutions, and one of them was at the University of Washington. And since I was a president, I was allowed to sit on the stage with her. And afterward, there was a little entertainment period, and we were coached. Now, don't speak to the Queen unless she speaks to you, and don't reach out your hand to shake hands, because you don't do that with royalty. So we're in our academic garb, and we're sitting in a line, kind of, and the Queen came in, and she started down the line, and she nodded at one person, and she got to me, and I have a John Knox cap, because that's what I got when I got my degree in Scotland. It's kind of a floppy hat, go to one side. And she said, "Oh, that's a John Knox cap." And I said, "Yes, Your Majesty. I'm a graduate of the University of Aberdeen." So we began to talk about that a little bit. Meanwhile, all the people down the line were wondering, what in the world is a queen spending all that time talking to Dr. Mounce about? I want to couple that with one other very similar one. I was at church at Ballater, which is a little town near the castle of Balmoral. And the Queen or royalty go to church there when they're in residence at the castle. And we were there sitting directly across from the Queen Mother. And at the end of the service, we stood in her presence and sang "God Save the Queen." I've never had an experience quite like that, to stand in the presence of royalty and sing in their honor. And of course, my mind immediately goes to heaven, standing in the presence of God, singing to his honor and glorifying him. Then I thought, the Word of God, well, God has made to speak to us. It's all there. We can read what he says, and not only do we read what he says, but in the process of reading it, it becomes alive and he speaks. So the Word of God is God speaking to me. God, the Creator of all things, has decided to speak to me and talk to me and tell me what it's all about, what he's done in history, what he wants to do in my life, and what we can expect in the future. Incredible. Now, if Joe Blow down the street wanted to tell me those things, no way would I spend the time except to amuse him. But God himself, the omnipotent creator of all things, says, "Bob Mounce, I want to talk to you." And not only that, but all of you there, he wants to talk to you and say, "I've got something for you to know." That's the big thing. That's the big deal about God's Word.